Nope.
I'm
What
really
happened there?
surprised.
Hmm.
Google talked about AI yesterday. I'm shocked. Didn't see that one coming.
What Google did was they took out the big stick from Walking Tall that has all
Mm,
the nails sticking out of it, and they just beat us to death with it. And this is kind of the problem. Like I know that OpenAI has like one product, and so they can do this really concise
hmm
event. But the thing that the OpenAI event had that I think the Google one lacked, and I think the Microsoft one will lack next Tuesday, is just this sense of kind of humanity and clarity, right? That in doing this live event, OpenAI was awkward and kind of came off as more human, which I think is something that company desperately needs because they're like robotic computer scientists, you know. But so is Google, right?
hmm
And I think it was Raphael who pointed this out to me. And once you see this, you can't unsee it, which is that at the Google I/O event, they've got these cameras swooping around over the audience,
hmm
but each of the guys walks out and they're like, doo, doo, doo. They walk up to a circle and they stand there and they're like, and then they walk off. And it's like there were a couple of exceptions, right? Like Dave Burke is always great,
hmm
and actually Dave Burke's boss, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, the guy who came out before him, also, you
Sundar?
know,
Oh,
no, no, well,
technically.
no, his direct boss, but uh, yeah, but it was too much. It was like,
hmm
and it was all over the place because Google is all over the place, just like Microsoft, right? They're at every point in the stack. You know, they don't just have back end services of their own, and they do it for third parties as well. They have developers, and they have like a million developer platforms now, end user services, you know, blah blah blah. And I bet Apple does this a lot better. They always do, but Apple kind of uses that main keynote as a marketing event, right? And when they talk about, you know, advances
Yeah,
for end
yeah,
users, and I
yeah.
think Google could have come out for half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and been like Gmail, photos, maps,
hmm
whatever the, you know, and just been like, look at all these awesome things we're doing for you. And I think that would, you know, they need to protect a position they have. Search, right? Search maybe it should have been the first one. Um, but instead, it was too much. And for whatever it's worth, I had some pre-briefings on this stuff, and I was like, guys, what's going on here? Like, I felt like I was missing something. Like it was, you know.
hmm
And then I saw the event and I saw all the coverage of it, and I was like, nope, I didn't miss anything. There's too much. It's just a lot of
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
they're shoving it in everything. They're doing little things. It's what Microsoft has
Doesn't
announced somewhat over the past 3 months. They did in a single day, right?
yeah.
It's in the
It
browser.
can't.
It's in this thing. It's in that thing. Like it's all.
It's yeah. It comes off as defensive,
hmm
and it is because there's this perception that they're behind or something. But um, I don't, you know, I don't think most people understand that this stuff that's happening, OpenAI would not be possible without the stuff that Google did fundamentally with AI a long time ago, and that they've been in a very measured way, maybe too measured,
hmm
putting AI capabilities into the products for several years, right? I mean, we know about all this stuff, Magic Eraser, whatever. Um,
Yep. It's super interesting to watch.
yeah,
You have Google, you have Microsoft, you have Facebook who's in there.
yeah,
Apple's doing some really whatever stuff we don't quite know yet. We'll learn here in a little bit. But there's
yeah. But you know what?
Amazon's
I
dabbling.
that's
And
right. Yeah, I forgot about Facebook. Facebook, by the way, dropped their workspace nonsense.
yeah, yeah. But
A
they've
little
got
bit later.
their open source
No,
models.
no, I mean, but
Oh yeah, their
because
workspace stuff is like, yeah.
it was always nonsense, and maybe AI makes more sense for them certainly than it VR does. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think Apple is the one that's going to get it right because they're a company that has a vast audience, multiple products and services, and they'll kind of do what I think Google should have done, which was like, this is what Photos is going to be like. This is what Chat's going to be like. This is what Siri is going to be like. Like I think they're going to nail that because any like normal people watching this are going to be like, "Yep, this is why I stick with you." You know.
Right, because
Whereas,
AI, one of the things that's being chased. I mean, it's interesting to watch all these massive companies literally throw billions and upon billions of dollars because they're trying to get a land grab. Right, there's a market they think, but I think where Apple will do and Google will go down this route and kind of showed it yesterday is AI is not a product in itself.
That's right.
It's a
That's right.
feature that makes other products great.
That's exactly
Like
right.
remove the background, get rid of people, change the lighting, add a dinosaur. Maybe they could add a flaming soccer ball going towards a goal, Paul Thurrott. Remember that one? Remember?
you, me, and hopefully everyone watching this understands that reference, the dark days of the creators update. But anyway, the point is, and sets, let's never forget sets.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag never forget.
Or Groove Music.
Well, you never forgot you made a product. So I've lost track. That's hilarious. Okay, so 1 hour and 51 minutes into a presentation that was 1 hour and 52 minutes long, Sundar Pichai said the thing they should have said right up front, which was, we have 15 products that have over 500 million users each, and every single one of them is getting better because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about those right now. Like, that should have been what that started with. And Google they have so much stuff going on. I feel like they could have multiple 30 to 60-minute presentations over the course of the day to focus on each of the big bucket areas, LLMs and models, of which they have proprietary and open source versions, right? Gemma and Gemini. All their developer frameworks, from Kotlin, which is going apparently cross-platform now, which is weird, and Flutter and Dart and whatever else they have, Android Studio and StudioBot and all that stuff, right? Okay, fantastic. Developers, awesome. Maybe even split developers into client-side Android, whatever, and then the back-end services, whatever. There's so much of it. But they, I know there was a developer keynote afterwards, which kind of begs the question, why was this so much of it in the first one? Like, it was just that I think we all go into this as individuals, right? Or as representatives of a company with specific questions or things we're interested in. And what happens is when you've sat in the audience like I have at all these Microsoft events, slowly falling asleep and losing interest because they go on and on and on and on about stuff that is irrelevant to you. And the problem is when you have this much stuff over this much spectrum or whatever, there's no one on earth who cares about all of it. Most people don't care about most of it, right? We all have our little areas, but I think you lose people, and I think this was a missed opportunity. I feel bad that this wasn't better presented.
Yeah. I mean, what started out many years ago as a developer show has morphed into a PR event. And then,
yeah, we can thank Apple for that,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
whatever. But we know that Microsoft's done that. Microsoft can't get out of its own way, and I feel like they're going to do this next week. I mean, there's going to be a big AI day, I bet. Like, and back in the day, there was like, when Windows was the center of the universe, Windows was the big event at Build or PDC or whatever it was. And over time it shifted, and then Windows kind of get pushed to day 2 at one point or whatever. And I don't even know that there'll be a Windows. I mean, I'm sure there will be like a Microsoft 365/Windows AI, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, it will be AI. And I think it just gets too scattered. I mean, I think you just lose people. I used to say, I used to deal with like these goons, I'll call them, who would write these like 7,000 word editorials about how awesome Apple was back in the early 2000s, back when Apple didn't have anything, to put a standing on. And my takeaway to this stuff was like, when you have to write that much to make your point, you're lying.
Yeah.
You're assuming no one's going to read all of it, because who could or who would care? But someone will look at that and be like, well, they must be making a point. I mean, look how much information is in there. And I think clarity is necessary when it comes to AI. I think clarity is the one thing that's missing, right? And you said it up front. You're exactly right. AI is it's not a killer feature. It's features everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
This is a threat to these companies. I think this is why they look so defensive.
Google is by far the most threatened of any of the companies on the planet. Google stands the most to lose, because if AI can build a better search tool, Google is in a lot of trouble. No, they have
because they have one
moat.
revenue siphon. Like they literally, it's 70 something percent. I don't remember the exact number. It's big.
Google's huge moat is that people just know, you just go to google.com. Like, that's where you go to search, which is hard to overcome.
the flip side is there's an inertia there, which Microsoft has absolutely benefited from, by the way,
Yeah.
where we're tuned to like just well, we just do Google, But so they've got that going for them, and I think really they really should have just given that reassurance that the bets you've made on Google Search, on Maps, on Photos, on Gmail, whatever, we got you. Look how awesome this is going to get because of AI. Stick with us, right? People are like, yeah, I know, I'm going to stop thinking about it. But what's going to screw them up is OpenAI or Microsoft or someone is going to get the search default on iPhone, or whatever. And then we get it, or in browsers, we'll do the same thing, right? Like we're going to get into a weird area here where I think a lot of people don't even think about that, right? These iPhone users, I bet there are a billion of them, whatever it is. I bet they don't really think about this. They just use their phone and don't think. And if the OpenAI something's doing it, I don't care. And that's a problem.
It's rumored that OpenAI is building their own search engine, which would be incredible for the market, not so much for Google, and honestly, probably not even so much for Microsoft. Even though they're like bedfellows, it's still a really weird relationship. Because one of the things to keep in mind is that at least what Google was demoing on stage was their own product, right? When Microsoft goes on stage next week, they'll probably have their own models, but keep in mind that that's still not technically theirs. So
when companies partner with Apple, and this is something that became probably increasingly obvious over the past 25 years, they understood that this thing was always going to turn around and kill you in the end. That their goal was to use you as long as they had to, and then to get rid of you as quickly as possible.
Sort of like some sort of embrace. Maybe you could extend it.
right. Exactly. Embrace and extinguish. Just to cut to the chase, this is the problem that Microsoft faces with OpenAI, right? Because that's what OpenAI wants to do to them. Like right now, they need Microsoft because of the scale of their infrastructure and
data centers, all that.
Make no mistake, these companies. I mean, they're partnering for sure, but they're also competing. And OpenAI's end game is complete independence from Microsoft. Microsoft knows this, right? I mean, we have to be honest about this, right? That there is no version of this future where it's 20 years down the road and those two guys are bedfellows. I mean, this breakup is going to be very interesting, but it's inevitable.
It would be the ultimate. We've talked on this podcast and it's written across the internet a million times, right? Big tech is like too big to fail, right? And like they need to be broken up in some way. And we don't really, and I don't mean like Microsoft or Google. I mean like as a general cohort, right? You have AWS, all that stuff. The best thing, and this is shooting from the hip, not that that's ever stopped us, that could ever happen to make that become a reality is say none of you can have any ownership of OpenAI, and OpenAI has to become its own company. And you have to divest of the Microsoft stuff. Anybody else who's invested, they have to stand alone, and that would be the biggest shakeup to that industry. The
irony here is that now that OpenAI has proven itself, right? I think Microsoft made a bet on something they saw that was really impressive, and it's really worked out, right? I mean, OpenAI is, I feel like, is just inevitable at this point.
Yeah, they've got a lot of momentum. They've got a lot of inertia behind them.
But if OpenAI today just said, look, and there is a weird altruistic thing going on there, which I don't quite get. It would make most sense for them. It would make most sense for the planet for them to go multi-cloud and say, we're going to distribute our workflows or workloads rather across the major clouds, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And we're going to partner with all three of these companies to some degree. And I honestly, that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, it fits within the whole regulatory climate. It's kind of what I'll call the EU model of fairness in a way, although it doesn't really help companies based in Europe, which I guess will always be a problem there. But spread the wealth, I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine.
Can you just imagine what that would do overnight?
That's what I'm saying. I think it would be a great leveler, right? I mean,
the problem is that they need
elevate them.
To your point, they're probably not independently self-sustainable, right? They probably need some of this money, but granted, they've got a subscription product, they've got enterprise customers. It sounds like Apple's getting on board.
I look, Apple or Google rather paid Apple some upwards of $20 billion last
Hmm.
year to be on the iPhone. Are you telling me that OpenAI couldn't get that kind of money to be on Google Cloud, to be on Amazon AWS, to be on the iPhone as
Yeah.
a search thing or something, whatever? I mean, I just saying, I
I mean,
think they could do it.
OpenAI building a competent search tool that is good enough to compete with Google, which means it's good enough for Bing,
Yeah.
would be the home run that probably that Apple would love someday, because then they could put their own ads in there
Yeah.
and start. Although it's really hard to turn down, like you just have one client who just pays you a whole bunch of money and you don't have to worry about building anything else out. But
Yeah, except well, they're over there building their own thing too, right? Because Microsoft is, in its own way, actively working to undermine OpenAI as well,
yep.
right? This is not a good partnership, is my point.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it's not a long-term play. I mean, this is not how marriages work, right? At least the ones that survive. So I don't know. There's question. There's all kinds of stuff going on here, dude. It's like our consumer service is as sticky as commercial products and services, right? Like Windows is still successful in many ways because of this inertia in businesses where they don't even like the effort of upgrading to a new version of Windows. You want them to move to a different platform? They're like, oh, like no, please stop. Like
Hmm.
we'll accept whatever baloney Microsoft throws at us. We just can't deal with this. But in the consumer world, like, is it hard? I mean, could you today be like, you know what? I've been doing the Google Photo thing for a while, but I am an iPhone user, and the iCloud thing is better, and they now or something for me. I mean, is it that sticky? I don't know. I feel like Google has some issues.
Well,
They do
it's
have
the
that
biggest
inertia
threat
thing,
they've.
but I don't know that the stickiness of what they're doing is as good as what was the case for Microsoft.
It's the biggest threat they've seen in a while, or
Hmm.
ever maybe, to their search dominance.
You don't think Bing Windows Live Search was hello? Anybody? No. Oh, is this thing
This is
on?
a factual podcast, by the way.